Hello everyone, Phoenix Knight here. Welcome to the channel, and welcome to a new playthrough on the channel. And yes, my buddy Cthulhu approves of this one. Tonight we're going to be debuting another new RPG as we play Star Wars Force and Destiny by Edge Studios. Actually, it's Edge Studio. So this is one of the Star Wars RPGs, and there's three that Edge makes. There's one for Scoundrels, one for Bounty Hunters, and then there's this one, Force and Destiny, which is for Force Sensitive. Closing closet door behind you, by the way. Now, of the three, I picked Force and Destiny as it's the one for Force Sensitives, because back when I played Star Wars The Old Republic for about a cup of coffee, it was actually more like a year, of the stories I played, I enjoyed the stories for the Force-sensitive characters the most. So I figured I'd get the most mileage out of that in this world. So that's what we're going to go with. And as far as a learning play where we might do a couple sessions learning this game, I'm going to go through the scenario as written, the intro scenario as written in the beginner game. So we're going to do, that needs to come out of the shot, by the way. So we're going to go through everything as written. I'm not going to worry about bringing in Mythic for the narrative aspect. I want to focus on learning the game. So I'm not going to worry about telling my own story. Assuming I like this game, there will be plenty of time for telling my own story. And actually, I just ordered some new books for this game, and looks like one of them is due in tomorrow. So we're going to be looking ahead to that. So let's meet our characters that we've got here. First up, we've got Kaveri, who's a Seeker. So we've got all of her stats here. You can feel free to pause this and look at this if you want to. I will be following the notes here quite heavily. Each character has a combat pool, has a dice pool here, and I'll explain more about how that works when we get into it late, if we have combat later tonight. I'm sure we'll have at least one skill check, but we'll, again, detail that later. The other character that we're playing as is Dao, a Mystic. I've always liked these caster-type characters, and actually, the Mystic sourcebook is one of the sourcebooks that I ordered for this game. So we can see all of his stats here. And I'll be following this very carefully. But I think we are all set to get into this game, so let's start to set the scene a little bit for this. So everybody's got their character folio, so now let's set a little bit of scene. So we're doing the scenario that comes with the beginner game. We're on Spinter, which is an Outer Rim world on a Trans-Hydean trade route. Its largest city, Relis, is modern and wealthy, doing brisk trade exporting Spinter's natural resources and serving as a local hub for commerce. The rest of the planet is comparatively primitive, and its snow-clad mountains and deep forests can both be beautiful and dangerous. Ruins from previous settlements dot the landscape, including, on a certain mountaintop, an ancient temple that seems to have a strong connection to the Force and the Jedi Order. Recently, noted scholar of the Force Hethan Romund went missing, captured by a dangerous Force user named Malefax. Before her abduction, Romund made alliances with a number of Force-sensitive individuals throughout the galaxy, and she managed to send a message to each of them from captivity. Malefax has brought Romund to the temple on Spinter, for what purpose only he can reveal. Now, Romund's allies have banded together in an attempt to rescue her. And actually, I'm curious to see if I can find Spinter on a Star Wars atlas. So I'm actually going to grab... Here we are. So I'm actually going to grab my Star Wars Essential Atlas that I got a little while ago to see if I can find Spinter. There's no guarantee that I will. So they're describing it as an Outer Rim world. No. Does not look like it's going to show up on here. So I'm presuming that Spinter is a world that was just invented for this adventure. There are definitely some worlds from Star Wars The Old Republic that I recognized in here. Like I see, glancing in here, I see, what else do I see? Well, Alderaan, of course everybody knows Alderaan. Bespin, those actually aren't from SWTOR. Corellia, Coruscant both are. I also see, what else do I see here? Hoth, of course. Ilum is a world from Star Wars: The Old Republic. Korriban, which is the Sith starter world. Let's see. Nal Hutta's on here. Actually, Nal Hutta is the Imperial agent and bounty hunter starting world. Nar Shaddaa's on here. Ord Mantell. I'm surprised Tython isn't on here, though. That was the starting world for the Jedi characters, the Jedi Guardian and Jedi Consular. I was trying to think of the equivalent of the Sith Inquisitor on the Jedi side from Star Wars: The Old Republic. Anywho, I'm rambling a little bit. We've got a little bit of scene to set here, and then we're ready to go. So we're looking at a mountaintop rescue. It is a dark... So this would be essentially the scroll like you see with the Star Wars theme that we're going through. It is a dark time in the galaxy. The Jedi Order has been destroyed, and knowledge of the Force is all but lost. Only a handful of people sensitive to the Force remain, scattered across the stars, ignorant of their destiny. Humble scholar Hethan Romand has preserved a fragment of the heritage of the Jedi. Traveling the galaxy, Romand stumbled across a number of people still strong in the Force and offered them what wisdom she could. And now Romand has been captured by Malefax, a servant of the dark side of the Force. Compelled by Malefax to lead him to a lost temple rich in ancient knowledge, Romand has sent a signal to several of the Force-sensitive allies she has made over the course of her career. Hang on, something's not right here. There we are. Where was I? Oh, yes. Romand has sent a signal to several of the Force-sensitive allies she has made over the course of her career. Drawn together to rescue their mentor, these Force sensitives now climb the snow-clad slopes of Mount Telek on the Outer Rim planet Spinter. And we've already detailed everything about Spinter. So now we're going through our first encounter. So we're trying to climb up the valley. You stand at the bottom of a steep stone rise clad in snow and ice. It's not especially tall, but you will need to brave the elements and exert yourself to reach the top. The path continues upward in a tight switchback exposed to the howling winds. To your left, several tall evergreen trees brush against the cliff face, where smaller trees cling to cracks in the rock. A more direct route would be to scramble straight up the rocks and ice to the valley above. In any event, you have to go up if you're going to rescue Romand. What do you do? Okay, so we have to note 2 strain here, which will represent our fatigue and our stress, which we can also strain that occasionally. Let me grab a pencil for this, because I have a feeling I'm going to want to be erasing like crazy. So bear with me while I go grab a pencil. Let's see if this works here. Oh, perfect. Now am I going to be able to erase it? Yep, looks like I can mostly erase it. So 2 strain for Dao. And 2 strain for Kaveri. So they're both at the bottom. Right about here. So they've taken their 2 strain. Now we have a few options that we can go to. So each PC will make 1 check. So what does each of them want to do here? Now we've got a few options that we could go for. So let's see what we want to do here. Kaveri... I think Kaveri could probably leap from tree to tree, so she's going to make a coordination check. As for Dao, he's just going to grit and bear it, I think. So he's just going to put his head down and try to go through. So since Kaveri's going to try a coordination check, we'll get her dice pools. This is where the skills come into play. So we're going to roll her coordination, grabbing these specialty dice. Now, looking at these dice, there are several different faces on them. So we've got a yellow and 3 green dice for Kaveri. So we've got a few different faces on here. These look like they're hits from Star Wars Outer Rim, if you play that by Fantasy Flight, and that's the face we want to see here. Then we've got that's a triumph, which counts as a success and could get a powerful consequence. Then there are advantages, which are a positive side effect, but those, even on a failed check. Then we've got essentially apparently it's not on here. Let me see if it's on these green dice. Oh, it's probably going to be on the purple die that we're going to have to add as well. So that symbol is almost a dark side symbol. That's a failure. There's also a threat, which could be a negative side effect of some kind, which cancel out advantages. And then what's the other one? There should be one more face. Should be a despair symbol. Maybe it's not going to show up on here. Let's see if there's one of the other dice it shows up on. Red die. So that's a despair symbol that we might see. Despair symbols count as failures and cancel successes. So we're going to add a purple die to this for the difficulty here, since we can vary the number of purple dice based on the difficulty. So Kaveri will roll her check. All right, so that's the result we get. So we got one threat. Excuse me, frog in my throat. One threat, which is a negative side effect. We do have an advantage to cancel that out. And advantages indicate a positive side effect. So we've actually got, that threat. That threat's canceled out by one advantage. Then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 advantages and 2 successes, which means Kaveri will succeed at her skill check since she got enough results there. I'm going to make a note of that. Kaveri succeeds at coordination. As for Dao, we said he was going to make a resilience check, just put his head down to try to get past it. All right, so he's going to do the same thing minus the yellow die. Okay. All right, so let's see what Dao does on his check. All right, so he got one threat, which is canceled out by an advantage, but 2 successes plus another advantage. So he will succeed at his skill check too. Okay. All right, so he had one advantage. I think actually he had 2 advantage. No, 1 advantage. Kaveri had 3. We'll see what those represent. So, okay. Let's see, for more advantage than threat. In this case, may recover 1 strain per advantage symbol that doesn't get canceled. Okay. So Kaveri is going to cancel out her current strain from her result. Actually, Dao will cancel out, will heal 1 strain. So he'll go to 1 strain. And then that's it for episode 1. So you can take a blue die to help them keep track. So both Kaveri and Dao will get blue dice on their checks. So that's actually it for encounter 1. I'm not gonna bother writing that up because that was a very short encounter. So Kaveri managed to leap along the trees to make her check. Dao just put his head down and bared it. So now they're up at the temple from the looks of it. So now we'll move over to encounter 2. Now that we've both gotten up top, so everybody's up, and now we've got a little bit of scene to set here. Having reached the top of the steep climb, you pause a moment to take in the view. You are now quite high on the slopes of the mountain, and spread out before you is a tapestry of icy peaks, snow-clad forests, and rolling hills. Above you is the still forbidding summit of Mount Telek, reachable only by passing through a densely wooded valley. You figure it's at least another hour of hard going before you reach the temple where Malefax, hopefully, is holding your mentor, Roman. But before you can resume your hike, a flickering, ghostly figure appears before you. He appears to be an old Syrian male wearing simple robes, but comprised entirely of silvery blue light. "Hello," says the figure. "I am the gatekeeper. Since everybody passed their check, we get this next text. Welcome to my valley. You handled the climb well. You may be useful. But first I must know, what is your purpose here?" Okay, so now we have, since nobody failed their check, we don't need to worry about the other text here. So now is the point where we would interact with the gatekeeper. So, what questions do we want to ask them? So Kaveri Kaveri's kind of puzzled by the gatekeeper talking about his valley, so she's going to look at him and be like, "What do you mean your valley? What do you mean my valley?" The gatekeeper will respond to that. "Calling it my valley is a trifle prideful and speaks of inappropriate attachment. Still, it is the place in which I dwell, and I feel protective of the valley and its inhabitants. I have no desire for the dark side to take root here." Okay. So Dao is going to want some information, I think, to look at this temple. And he's like, "What can you tell us about the temple?" All right, and the gatekeeper will respond to that. "The temple is my home. You can see what's left of the spires above the trees from here. At the far end of the valley, it is a sacred place, strong in the force. I will not allow it to be defiled." Okay. So I guess Dao will follow that up by saying, "We think it's already been defiled. We think there's somebody here." So, okay. So now they're going to start looking for information about what's actually in there. So now we're going to have to start trying to convince the gatekeeper that we're worthy. All right, I'm just going to make a note here. Recon for information. Okay, so there are a number of ways. Okay, just reading all of that. May add a boost die to their first check. Okay, so all right. I'm just trying to decide what I want to do here. So I think what Kaveri is going to do is Kaveri is going to try to charm her way into the gatekeeper. So she's clearly flattered by his wisdom, and he wants to help us. So she's going to try to be charming, which means they'll attempt the task, choosing one to make a charm check, which is actually going to be Dao, opposed by his cool. So it's detailed on page 11. Okay, for every green ability, it's so an opposed check. Okay, if the player who controls the active character assembles the dice pool as usual. So they're going to have Dao try to make the charm roll, which means we'll get a yellow and 2 blue. And then for every green ability die that the rival character would add to a dice pool, a purple difficulty die. So we're going to get 2 purple and a red, and it's a good thing I've got the cup and shot. Okay, so we evaluate so it's a good thing I've got my dice cup right here. So basically, similar to what you've seen me do with what we've seen with other opposed checks, like in Call of Cthulhu, for instance, we're going to basically tally up the result, and whoever's got the higher result of the two, I believe, wins the check. Okay? So Dao is making a charm check against the gatekeeper's cool. All right, so the purple dice are the purple die is purple. Actually, yellow and green are for us. Purple and blue are for the gatekeeper. So we evaluate everything Evaluated following the normal rules. Advantage and triumph could represent something beneficial. Okay, so let's evaluate the roll. So we got 3 hits and 2 advantages, whereas the cool came out with 3 threats and 2 failures. So I think based on that, he also gets the boost die, which gives him nothing. So I think Dao is 6. Let me evaluate this out. So we've got 3 successes and 2 advantages, and 2 failures and 3 threats. So I think the way we interpret that is the check is successful, but there's a threat behind it. So how we want to do that is, okay, so yeah, it looks like we pass the charm check. We pass it, but with a threat. So I think the way, so Dao passes an opposed charm versus cool, but with a threat. I think the threat here is going to be that he takes 1 strain, trying to convince I think that's the way we'll use it for now. So he'll take a threat, so he'll take a strain. The conversation takes more twists and turns than he expects, but Dao will ultimately convince the gatekeeper to help them out. So yeah. Okay. Which means, so now we get to start asking questions. And I think the first question they're both going to want to know is Roman still alive? So I'm just making notes here so I can write this up later. The gatekeeper will answer yes. I believe Malefax is attempting to force her to reveal the secrets of my temple. A vain attempt, as she does not know my secrets. And Kaveri will ask, well, does she know, do you know anything about Malefax? The response to that will be, he is completely ensnared by the dark side and utterly focused on increasing his own power. He will underestimate you, and particularly underestimate your ability to work as a team. And then the next question from Dao is going to be, well, are there any dangers in the valley? He'll answer, yes. With the temple out of balance, the locals have become extremely hostile. I will not be able to prevent them from attacking you. There are also environmental hazards, but given that you managed to climb up here, I don't imagine they will pose a significant threat. Okay, we'll run out of time due to rolling a despair. So yeah, looks like... Okay, so yeah, we managed to convince Okay, so yeah, looks like we did manage to convince him on that. So we fished for all of our information, which means now it's time to move over to scene 3, or encounter 3. All right, which means Dao gets the blue die back again. So now we're moving into the temple. All right, if the PCs have an advantage over the hunters. Okay, the gatekeeper is aiding the PCs. So we get this next scene. A group of hunters now approaches your position, their minds clouded by the dark side. Even if you evade them now, they will continue to hunt you, and they will find you. I will lead them into a ruin not far from the lake. You can conceal yourselves and strike from ambush. I would take it as a kindness if you at least leave some of them alive. Go quickly now. We only have moments. Then the gatekeeper is gone. You press through the snowy trees and across a bridge until you come to the ruin he mentioned. Hiding yourself seconds before the first of the fur-clad hunters enters the ruin. He holds an old-style slug-thrower rifle, and his face is daubed with blood. Soon, the entire group of hunters is in the center of the ruin, and it is time to strike. Okay, so now we're getting set for combat, which means since we have the aid of the gatekeeper in this case, we actually get the initiative, so we're getting the jump on. So as many hunters as there are PCs plus 1. Okay, let's see if we have a hunter. We should have hunter NPC. We should have hunter tokens in here. So as many as there are plus 1. Sure wish there was a map in here. But I sure wish there was like a map of something we could use as a map in here. Actually, we can probably make a map here. So bear with me while I get a map out. So after the scene being described, I'm going to get that map out of the way. So they're saying a snowy trees and a bridge. Let's see what I've got for maps that could represent that. I've got a few sets of map books here. Oh, actually, this one. I'm looking for snowy trees and a bridge. Cyberpunk definitely won't have anything. And I know I've got a Wilds and Ruins set of maps down here as well. Except I think that's more rooms, vaults, and chambers, so that's not actually what I want here. This is Wilds, Wrecks, and Ruins. I think there's a map here that could actually work. So let me get turned to that. I think this is the closest thing I've got to the map here. It's not exactly what I have in mind, but but for my purposes, it'll work. All right, so where are we? So where are we set up here? So based on the scene, we were set up in lead them into a ruin not far from the lake. So I think we were going to set up. Let's see. Press through the snowy trees and across a bridge until you come to the ruin he mentioned. Okay, so we're going to conceal ourselves in here. And then they're going to pop up. Then the group of hunters, which I've got right here. I've got these hunters right here. They're going to pop up before they enter the ruin. So they're going to pop up over here. I think is where I want them. All right, so we only have the 2 PCs here, so which means we have the initiative. Okay, so each round of combat, yada yada yada, which means now we get our maneuvers. So yes, I apologize that this is going very slowly, but I'm trying to learn this game. So this should be. Well, we'll see what happens when I come out of here. So, okay. So since we have the initiative, now we get to go first. So it looks like we get to choose in what order based on the initiative, okay? So we get an action and a maneuver, which means our maneuver is going to be. So first I think we're going to have Dao. He can only hit in melee. So I think Dao is just going to move. Actually, probably makes more sense to have Kaveri move first. So Kaveri is going to move in. So I think what Kaveri is going to do here is she's going to move. She's going to move into medium range. So she's actually going to pop out from cover. And then she's going to attack this hunter up here. Let me grab my laser pointer so I can point out which hunter she's going after. She's going after this one up here. So now we're making an attack from. So it looks like we're making an attack from medium range. Range and distance are handled abstractly, so that's probably... So I probably don't necessarily need maps for this game, but I think this will help me at least envision everything. So she's at medium range. Actually, that's opposite sides of a room, so we probably want to be... So, yeah, we're probably at opposite sides of a room, so she's going to move to... What did we say? That's where... So we're at medium range right now. We're going to go to short range. About there, I think, and then we'll take a shot with the blaster. So we're going to need 2 difficulty dice. And then she does have a blaster rifle that we can use. So we get a green or a yellow die and 3 green. And then we'll roll all of that for our check. Then evaluating all of that out, we've got 3 threats. So we definitely hit. So we've got 2 hits and 2 advantages. Actually, we've got the blue die as well. I forgot about that again. Let's see what happens with the blue die, since Kaveri never used the blue die on our last scene. Okay, so that cancels out. So that third advantage actually cancels out all of the threats, and we've got 2 hits. Which I know we'd have to take a maneuver to get that, but we maneuvered and then we aimed. So, yeah, so we just do a straight 9 damage plus a success, plus a damage per success rolled, which we rolled 2 of those. But the hunter only has wound threshold so they have no strain threshold. So it just does 9 damage, which means this hunter has very much been defeated. So that one's gone. And then we have Dao's attack coming out. Dao is going to move. I think Dao's going to move. We're at medium range right now. He's going to move. Does he have a skill he wants to use? We can't use the force yet. He's got his walking stick for melee. He's got his walking stick, but we're only in melee for that. Let's move out a little bit, and then we'll suffer 2 strain. And then we'll suffer 2 strain to give him a second maneuver. So he'll move into close range, but he's not going to get into melee just yet. And then the NPCs will get to move next. So this hunter is going to take a shot at Dao from close range, which is a 1 die attack. And he's got ranged heavy, so same dice that Kaveri had for her attack, minus the setback die, or minus the boost die. All right, so we've got 3 hits on there, and advantage cancels out a threat and 2 failures. So we do still have enough for the hit, but the advantage and the threat cancel each other out. How much damage does that do? Ooh, that does 7. Wait. That does 7 damage. I gotta understand what soak does. Okay. Dealing damage and suffer wounds. Okay, so the damage of the weapon plus the number of successes left uncancelled. Okay, that's pretty straightforward. Okay. Damage reduced. Target reduces damage suffered by his or her soak rating. All right, so they had a soak of 3, which means Wound threshold of 6, so actually Kaveri still killed the one hunter, which means the weapon does... So the weapon does 7 damage base minus his soak, so Dao actually takes 3 damage. 11. So that's this hunter who's gone, and then this hunter is going to attack Kaveri. Actually, are they going to attack Kaveri or Dao? I think they're going to attack Dao again. This one's at close range, so only need 1 difficulty die. Which, wow, that is very much... So that's 2 hits and 2 advantage. What happens when they, on advantage for them? They need 4 to be able to do anything with that. So that'll be a 7, 8, 9, because of the 2 successes left uncancelled. So 9 minus 4 for soak is 5 damage. So Dao takes another 5 damage, going down to 6. Which means now we're at the start of a new round. So Kaveri will aim to get a blue die, and then she'll take a shot at this hunter. So she'll get her blaster rifle dice, the boost die, and 2 purple dice, because we're at medium... Actually, we're at medium range. All right, wow, that looks like a pretty good roll. So she rolled a... So the triumph counts as a success and may also be spent to trigger a powerful positive consequence. Triumph counts as a symbol, can be used to inflict a critical injury. Okay, so we got 1 threat, which is canceled out by an advantage, so those 2 cancel out. We've got 2 more advantages and 3 triumph, so we definitely hit to inflict a critical injury, which will be a wound threshold of 3. Actually, it's a soak of 3. The blaster rifle does 7. It actually does 9, 10, 11, 12, minus 3. So yeah, we've obliterated this hunter. So that hunter is defeated. And now when all but 1 hunter has been defeated, so he's going to turn and run. So we read the following aloud. All right. Whooping and shrieking, the remaining hunter run through the trees, pausing only occasionally to fire wild shots in your general direction. You take only a few steps in pursuit before, suddenly, you plummet into a deep pit, a stone-walled chamber with no visible exit. Each of you falls into a separate pit in a spray of snow and gravel. The hunters reappear at the edge of the pits for a moment, hoots in derision, and then vanishes. Okay, PCs have a chance to recover strain. Each PC recovers strain equal to his or her presence or either presence or ranks in cool, whichever is greater. So actually, Kaveri's already clear of strain. Dao is also clear of strain. So we move into encounter 4. How many scenes are in here? Looks like we have 7 scenes in here. So now encounter 4, we can pull the maps out of here. So we are... Oh, there was a map on the temple. Actually, we won't need this just yet. So we can bring that back in shot for the time being. That's the main map here of what we're looking at in our encounter. So now we're in deep trouble. All right, so we're in the pits, which means we get this next text. You see no obvious way out of the pit. Only some ropes well out of your reach. Don't bother trying to climb out, says the gatekeeper, suddenly reappearing. The walls are covered in ice and it's just above freezing. They're slick with ice melt. No, I'm afraid you will have to use the force to have any hope of success here, which will be quite an interesting test from my perspective. All right, so we can potentially ask questions and suggest the ways the force powers might try to use to escape. So now we can use our force powers. So looking at our force powers here, Dao's got an ability to sense and move. So we can try to sense the force interacting with the world around you. Or we can move small objects slowly with the force. Kaveri also has the ability to sense. So I wonder if Dao can try to move anything, maybe bring those ropes down closer and take hold of a rope to try to pull it down. Okay, let's see, use the force. Rolls a number of white force dice equal to the force rating. Okay, so I'm probably going to need so I have a feeling I'm going to need more of these dice. Okay, so I think we're going to have Dao try to move. We're going to have him, so he saw the rope. So he sees the rope there, he's going to try to move it to pull it down. So, using the force, when a character uses the force, chooses the force power, then rolls a number of white dice equal to the force rating, which the force rating is 1. So we've got the 1 force die in the set here. Just looking at this, light side results generate a force point. So we've got light side results here generating a force point, and then dark side results that can generate strain. But we can also, I thought for a second it was saying something about maybe it's not a face on here. You can spend force points to trigger the power. Yep, okay. All right, so he rolls, ooh, that's a problem. So Dao rolls a dark force point. So he is going to have to use that to suffers a strain per dark side result used to generate a force point. So we will have a restriction later coming up, but we can ignore that for now. So he will spend a dark side point. So encounter 3 attacked hunters. Encounter 4. Dao pulled a rope to pull himself out. Fell to dark side slightly. Okay, so it looks like Dao's got the force point that he needs with move to pull the rope in, which means now he can climb, which means now he can climb out, but he's going to look ridiculous doing it. So can climb out. As for Kaveri, she's going to try to sense something around us. So let's see if we can detect anything with her force power. She's got a force rating of 1 as well. She actually gets a light side force point. So what does Kaveri sense from hers as she spends the force point to generate sense? So she detects the movement of splintery snow mice and realizes that there's a sloped passage back to the surface only centimeters away behind the ice. A few quick blows with a nearby rock will break her a hole to freedom. So Kaveri discovers a passage from Ventiri, what is it? Ventiri snow mice. Okay, so both of them escape, and now we have an interlude to go through. So it's been very linear to help teach the game. So now the PCs have earned the Gatekeeper's assistance and can escape the temple. So now that the PCs have completed one of their goals, each of them gets 10 force points, or 10 experience, I should say. So now we get to level our characters up, which means we'll go to the... So we'll actually go to the leveled up point. So Dao still has his wounds, whereas Kaveri is clear of hers, so we both level up. But now we also have destiny points that we need to factor in. So building the destiny pool, each player now rolls the force die. So Kaveri's roll of the force die giving her 2 dark. For each dark side rolled, place a destiny token in the destiny pool with its dark side results showing. So where is the destiny? So, right, so we get here are my destiny dice, which means we have 2 dark side points from Kaveri. As for, let me grab my pen so I can keep making notes. Destiny roll. Kaveri, 2 dark side. As for Dao, his roll gives us 2 light side destiny points to cancel out the 2 dark side that Kaveri rolled. All right, and these destiny points can be spent to upgrade a difficulty die to a challenge die, among other things. Let's see. So both the GM and the hero players can use the destiny pool to upgrade skill checks. The active player may spend a destiny to upgrade an ally, an ability die to a proficiency die. Then the player controlling the character who's the target of the action can do the same thing to upgrade a difficulty to a challenge. When the hero players spend a die, they spend a light side destiny and flip it to its dark side. When the GM does it, he spends a dark and flips it to his light. If there are no destiny points showing the appropriate face, the players can't spend anything until some have flipped. They can also allow a light side character to draw on the dark side, or for a dark to draw on the light. Okay. So now we have some time to explore, but I think we will do that. But I think we'll do that the next time we bring this game to the channel. I mostly wanted to play these first few encounters just to get a feel for learning the game. And this is actually pretty straightforward. I honestly was a little bit worried about the advantage threat, about the success, triumph, advantage, failure, despair, and threat system of the dice. But it's actually very straightforward, so I'm very glad about that. And I definitely see myself doing more with this game on the channel and being able to write some of my own stories. In fact, I've already got some stories dancing around in my head of some good Sith dramas that we could get into. But that will do it for this playthrough of Star Wars Force and Destiny. We're going to have a pretty busy weekend of streaming coming up this weekend. But before we get there, tomorrow we'll continue out of the unofficial Disney Parks cookbook on mystical munchies with the dessert, caramel pecan bars. Tomorrow afternoon, I'm expecting to do a stream of Dungeons and Dragons using the Solo Adventurers Toolkit to see how that works. Sunday, we'll be back to the links for the second week in a row as we play another round of ASG Golf. We'll have a couple more streams tomorrow, a couple more streams on Sunday as well. And then Wednesday next week, we're actually going to be continuing the Fate of the Elder Gods tournament and Christmas in Arkham. More on that coming up on Sunday, though. Thank you for watching the video. Please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Be sure to turn on notifications so you get my content. Be well, stay safe, take care of yourselves and your loved ones, and I'll be back with more videos in the future. Until then, take care, everyone.